Muy bien. Qué equipo tan fantástico tenemos. Estoy muy feliz de eso.
What a
Bueno,
fantastic team we have. I'm very happy
me
about
estoy dando
that.
cuenta que tenemos
So I'm
aquí
noticing
un
that we
grupo
have here
internacional.
an international
Entonces,
group.
si estás dispuesto,
So if
dispuesta,
you're
puedes poner en
uh,
el chat de dónde
able
te
and you
conectas,
want, if you put in the chat,
porque me
where are you
inspira
connecting from?
mucho
Because that
esta
inspires
conexión
me.
en la comunicación
Uh,
no violenta, que
Really,
es un
that
movimiento
connection in the
global.
nonviolent communication, that it's a
Y en estas
global
llamadas se
movement.
conecta gente
And
de
in
todo el
these
globo.
movements, there's people from
Estoy
all
viendo
the
el
globe.
tiempo y
So
llevamos
I'm
casi a
seeing
la
here the
mitad y
time,
apenas
and we're
estamos
almost at the
empezando.
time, and we're
Entonces
just
me voy a
starting.
mover un poco
So I'm
más
going to go a
rápido.
little faster.
Una cosa que me
A
gustaría
thing that I would like
entender o saber de parte
to
del grupo
understand and
aquí
know,
es
besides the group here,
qué niveles de comunicación
is
no violenta
what
tenemos,
level
porque
of
tenemos
nonviolent communication do
ya
we have? Because we have
formadoras certificadas, como por
like
ejemplo
certified
mi hermana Betty,
formators, like my
que es
sister
una de las
Betty.
formadoras certificadas
She's
que
one
va a
of
estar en
the
el intensivo en
certified
Costa Rica.
facilitators who's going to be in the
Y
intensive
aquí vienen
trainers.
todos los niveles.
And
Entonces me
here
gustaría, nada
there's
más alzando la
everyone from
mano,
every level.
si
So I
eres
would
una
just like you to
persona
raise
que
your
eres
hand. If you
nuevecita a la
are
comunicación no violenta,
new
no has
to
estudiado
nonviolence
casi nada,
communication,
pero
you've
eres así
never
como una
studied
persona muy
anything,
nueva en esto.
that you're very new with
Bien, ok,
this, like raise your
gracias.
hand.
Excelente,
Thank you. Okay,
excelente,
thank you.
bravo.
Thank you.
Y
Okay, lower your
ahora,
hands.
si te consideras, y puede ser mano física, a menos que
So
si tienes una
you
pregunta,
can,
si
oh,
habla el
unless
micrófono.
you have you have a question, open your microphone.
Si
But if not, you can
te
lower it.
consideras
So if you
principiante,
consider
no
yourself a
necesita, pero
beginner, not
principiante, me
new to
gustaría
it,
ver
but
así en la
beginner, I would
pantalla.
like to see your
Ok,
hand up.
bastantes personas
Okay,
principiantes, ok.
several, yes.
Si tú te
Okay,
consideras a ti mismo
thanks.
o a ti
So if
misma
you do,
nivel
you consider yourself
intermedio,
like an intermediate
nivel intermedio
level
de comunicación no violenta,
of
muy
nonviolent
bien, ok,
communication. Okay, okay.
ok, algunos.
Some,
Si te
yes.
consideras tú
If
a
you
ti
consider
mismo
yourself
nivel avanzado,
advanced level,
hay alguien
raise
que
your
se
hand.
considera, ok, una persona
Okay,
con más o
one,
menos,
two,
ok,
three.
mi amiga
Okay, or less.
Lilian,
My friend Leanne,
Roxana,
Gloria,
este,
Kate.
ok,
Uh-huh.
sí, más o
Okay,
menos.
more or less.
¿Y quién aquí ya enseña
And
comunicación no
here who
violenta o
teaches
es
nonviolent communication
formadora
or
certificada?
is a certified
Enseñas ya, pero no estás
formator.
certificada o eres
Yeah.
certificada, ok?
Oh, you're certified.
Muy bien,
Yes. Betty,
bravo,
them, organize
excelente. Ah,
Ale,
también Ale es formadora
Gloria.
certificada. Sí, sí, sí.
Ale, she's a
Tenemos
certified. Yes.
aquí
Yes, we have here
todos los
all
niveles.
levels.
Excelente. Bueno, un
Excellent.
poquito sobre mí.
Okay, a little from me, briefly.
Tomé mi primer taller con el
I
doctor
took my
Marshall
first
Rosenberg en
workshop with
1995.
Dr. Marshall Rosenberg in
Después
1995.
formé parte del grupo
Afterwards,
de la
I
ciudad de
was
Seattle,
part of the
Washington,
group
que
of Seattle,
invitaba al
Washington
doctor
that would
Rosenberg y a
invite
otros
Dr.
formadores y formadoras
Rosenberg and
a dar
other
talleres. En ese
formators to give
entonces,
workshops.
Marshall
Back
iba
then,
a Seattle 2 veces
Marshall
al año
would
a dar
go to Seattle
talleres.
twice a year to give
En
workshops.
1999
And
yo
in
asistí a un intensivo
1999,
cuando
I was in an
empezamos
intensive,
aquí
like the one we
preparándonos
are
para
here,
empezar
preparing yourselves for.
intensivo de
Uh,
9 días de comunicación no violenta.
9 days
Se lo tomé en 1999
in
y después
1999.
trabajé con el doctor Rosenberg en Colombia,
And then I
Sudamérica,
worked with
10
Dr.
días como su
Rosenberg in
intérprete del
Colombia and
español y
South
aprendí
America,
más en esos
10
10 días
days,
que en
like
los
an
últimos, en
interpreter
los
of
4
Spanish,
años
like for 10
anteriores de
years, I
haber
think, like for
estado
the four
aprendiendo
years
el
before that I
proceso.
had been learning for
Y soy
this
formador
process.
certificado desde el
And I'm a
2003.
certified
Entonces ya llevo
formator
algo de
from
tiempo en esto, con todo tipo
2003.
de
So I've
clientes y
had some time with
experiencias,
this,
organizaciones, instituciones,
with clients,
familias,
experiences,
parejas. En
organizations,
mi propia
institutions,
vida he
families, couples. In
transformado
my
todas
life,
las
I've
relaciones
transformed
significativas en mi
all
vida.
my significant relationships in my
Y
life. And
el intensivo, para
the intensive,
mencionar que es una
to
oportunidad
say that
de vivir en
it's an
comunidad por nueve
opportunity
días con otras
to
personas
live
que
like 90
tienen
days with other
esta
people that
intención
have
compartida
this
de
shared
transformar
intention
cómo
to
pensamos,
transform
cómo
how we think,
hablamos,
how we speak,
cómo nos comunicamos,
how we communicate.
que es escuchar, también hablar, pero también tener esa
It's to
claridad
listen,
interior de qué es,
how
cuáles son mis
to
intenciones, qué es lo que
speak and
quiero,
say, like, what
qué
are my
busco,
intentions? What is it that I want?
cómo
What
me
do I look
conecto.
for?
Y
How do I
también
connect?
transformar cómo abordamos el
To
tema del uso del
transform
poder.
how we take
Entonces
the
estar
part
en
of
una
the use
comunidad
of
de
power.
aprendizaje
So
de 9
it's in a
días
learning community for nine
es algo muy
days.
increíble. Y si
So
tú
it's
quieres
something that's very
profundizar
incredible.
en
And
las
so you want to
herramientas y
deepen
en tus habilidades,
with the tools and
es
your
una
abilities.
increíble oportunidad.
It's an
Empieza
incredible
en 2
opportunity,
meses,
and it
ya
starts
viene
in two
rápido.
months. It
El equipo
comes
se reúne por un
quick.
año
The
antes de un intensivo. Yo he
team
sido formador en 9
comes
intensivos, este va
together
a ser mi
in
10º,
a year.
creo.
The
Si los conté
formation
bien, va
group
a ser el número
comes
10.
together, and I've been in nine
Y
intensive, if I
comienza el
counted
27 de
correctly.
abril
This is my 10th, and it
y
starts on
concluye
April
el 6 de
27,
mayo
and it
en el
finishes on May
precioso país de
6th
Costa
in the
Rica,
beautiful country of Costa
como el
Rica,
corazón de las Américas,
like the
donde
heart
se
of the
une
Americas,
el sur y
where
el norte,
the
donde
South and
llegan
the
el
North
cóndor y el
unite,
águila
and
a
the
hacer comunión.
condor and the eagle come
Y
together to in
me gustaría
communion.
empezar contando un
So I
cuento.
would like
Les quiero
to
contar un cuento,
uh, tell you
que es un
a
cuento que
story.
viene del otro lado del mundo,
And it's
viene
a
de
story
Japón.
that comes from the
Es un
other side
cuento
of the world,
tradicional
like Japan. It's
sobre el
a
cielo y el
ordinary
infierno. Y
story
el
about
cielo aquí
heaven
no en el
and
sentido de sky,
hell,
sino en el
and
sentido de
not
heaven,
not in the
como
sense of
el cielo
sky,
divino.
but the heaven, the
Y este
divine,
cuento
divine sky
tradicional
or
japonés
heaven.
sobre el cielo
And
y
this
el
traditional
infierno
story about the
lo
heaven
leí
and
por primera
hell,
vez en
I
un
read it the
libro
first
de
time
Aikido,
in a
que es
book
un
of
arte
Aikido.
marcial
It's a
de
martial
la
art
paz.
of
En
peace.
Aikido, la
In
finalidad
Aikido, the
o
finality or the
sí,
purpose,
la meta no es
the goal is not
romperle la
to
cara a alguien. La
break
meta en
someone's
Aikido es
faces.
cómo
It's
neutralizar
how
un
to
ataque
neutralize an
de tal
attack
forma
in a way
que se preserve la integridad de ambas
that the
partes.
integrity of both parts are maintained.
Entonces, en esta historia
So in this
había un
story,
príncipe
there was a prince
con muchas
with a
virtudes,
lot
muy
of virtues
bondadoso,
that was very
y
kind,
muere el
and
príncipe
he dies. So the
y
prince
llega su ángel
dies.
de la guarda
And then his
y
guardian
el
angel
ángel le
comes,
dice,
and
bueno,
the angel says,
has sido
okay,
muy buena persona,
you've
te voy a
been a
llevar
very good
al cielo,
person. I'll
pero
take you
antes
to
de que yo
heaven.
te lleve, te voy a
But
conceder
before I take you,
este,
I'm gonna
un wish. Ya
I'm
se
gonna
me fue la
give you a
palabra.
wish. Deseo.
Este,
Deseo.
te voy a dar un deseo.
Un
Un
deseo.
deseo. Gracias. Gracias.
Thank
Mucha gente
you.
bilingüe. Qué
A
padre.
lot of
Bueno,
bilingual people.
entonces,
I'm
te voy a
sorry,
conceder
I
un
said it
deseo.
in Spanish here.
Entonces,
Okay,
así
I'm gonna give you make a wish for you.
se
So
encuentran
suddenly
en
pass.
un
Uh,
cuarto
they are
donde
in a
hay
big
una mesa
room
de banquete
where there's a
repleta de la
banquet
comida más
table
increíble que
filled
te
with the
puedes
most
imaginar.
amazing food that you may imagine.
Y las personas
And the
sentadas alrededor
people
de
sitting
la mesa
around the
tenían
table had
un palillo como esos
a
de
little
comer,
uh
pero de 1 metro de
like
largo.
chopsticks, but it was a meter
Un
long
palillo del
chopstick
meñique
from
y un
the
palillo
pinky
del índice.
to the index
Y,
finger.
y todos se veían
And all of them
irritados,
looked
flaquitos,
irritated,
como que no habían
very
comido,
thin, as if they hadn't
y
had anything to eat,
regañándose y peleándose y gritando.
bickering,
Y como tenían estos
fighting.
palillos de un
And because
metro,
they
no se
had this
podían
huge
alimentar
sticks,
a sí
they
mismos,
couldn't feed
entonces se
themselves.
pasaban todo el
So
tiempo
they would pass
quitándose
all
la
the
comida
time
los unos a los otros.
taking the food
Entonces tenían este
one
increíble
from each other.
banquete
So they
y
had
nadie lo
this
podía tocar. Y se
incredible
pasaban todo
banquet,
el
but no
tiempo
one could
peleándose
touch
y
it. They would
quitándose
keep
comida
bickering and
de los
fighting
palillos
and
de unos a otros.
uh,
Ese era
dropping
el
the
infierno.
food from each other, and that was
Entonces,
hell.
ya que vio eso,
So when
en
he
un
saw that
flashazo,
in a
se
flash,
encontró en el
he
cielo
met,
y
he
en el
was suddenly
cielo
in
lo que vio
heaven,
fue
and in
una mesa de
heaven,
banquete
there was this big
repleta de la
banquet
comida más increíble que te puedas
table
imaginar
filled with all
y
this
alrededor de la
amazing
mesa
food,
había un grupo de
and
personas,
surrounding the
cada
table there were a
una
group
con
of
dos
people,
palillos
each
en
one
cada
with
mano,
two
uno del
hands,
meñique y uno
one
del
from the
índice,
pinky,
palillos de un
one
metro,
to the index, a
pero todos
long meter,
estaban,
the same.
se veían bien
So, but they were
alimentados,
all
estaban
well fed.
contentos,
They were
contentas,
happy,
disfrutando de buena conversación.
enjoying of a good
Y como cada
conversation.
persona no
And
podía
like each
alimentarse a sí
person
misma,
couldn't
se
feed
pasaban el
themselves,
tiempo
they would pass time
extendiéndose comida
extending
los unos a los
food
otros.
one to each other. They would feed each
Entonces,
other.
esa es la diferencia
So that's the
en esta
difference
historia
in this story
entre el infierno y el cielo.
between heaven and
Y
hell.
es una metáfora
And it's a
de
metaphor
lo que puede suceder
of what may happen
cuando tenemos
when
esas
we
intenciones
have those intentions
de conectarnos,
to
de crear
connect, to
soluciones
create
de
solutions
beneficio mutuo.
of
Y
mutual
como este taller
benefit.
en específico
And
tiene el
this
enfoque de cómo
workshop,
resolver
especially,
conflictos,
has the focus of how to resolve conflicts. What I want to do is to present some schemes, and then if we have some time, to open it to that where there be some discussion, and then we can do small breakout rooms so that you can talk amongst each other, and then we can come back for a Q&R, and we close because it's a short workshop. So if there is a question or a comment, it's the time to open your microphone to ask. But if it's not urgent, we can continue because we have a little amount of time. Nothing? Okay. So, and I'm not looking, I'm not seeing the chat. I'm waiting for the team for that. I'm relying on the team for that. So we are here. I'm going to share screen.
Prevenir y resolver conflictos, parte 1.
Here we are, conflicts part 1. Can you see this?
Sí, okay.
Yes?
Entonces, ¿cómo estoy y qué es lo que
So
me
how am
gustaría?
I? And
¿Cómo estás tú?
I would like to, how are you and what is it that you would like? And if we're disconnected, the habit is to jump suddenly to a strategy or to a solution. So when we don't figure out how to do it, we can fix it. What happened? Another name for this scheme would be move fast to then go slow. Why? Because I went fast and I skipped the solution. So then the solutions don't work because we don't know if they satisfy the needs of each other. And we don't know it because we don't take time to see what are the needs of each person. So we went fast, we skipped connection, and perhaps now someone feels that the solutions are being imposed, or there's resentment, or we went fast to fix it, but then now we need to go slow to fix it because very little do they work like when this works so slow. And this is a packet of 22 pages that I'm going to share with you in the intensive. And the second part is what to do. What can you do? Here the principle is it's connection before solution. So another name for this scheme would be go slow to go fast. So if we slow down, we connect with each other, and then if we do this and we have a certain amount of connection, that connection automatically, naturally, spontaneously would take us to a exploration together, solution seeking, where you can do it. I was also a mediator of conflicts and studying this when there's this methods of mediation. When the people are connected, it's easier to come together to a solution, a mutual solution with benefits that are mutual as well. And so I'm going to deepen a little in this. So there's two kinds of quality of connection. One is mutual comprehension. Alan trusts that Ale understands her needs, and Ale trusts that Alan understands his needs. So there's mutual understanding. We understand each other. But another level is to take care of mutually. Ale Betanzo trusts, Ale Betanzo, our organizer, trusts that Rafael takes care of his needs, and he trusts that Ale takes care of his needs. It's mutual marrying. It's another level of connection, deeper than just to understand each other. But even if we only understand each other, the process is going to be able to flow. So here we're going to go slow to after be able to be alone. So then if there's another, then there's no friction and there's no conflict. So we identify something that benefits both and that deepens the trust and the goodwill of one person to the other. So that's a scheme, a simple scheme to illustrate how is it that the nonviolent communication works. Of course, there's a lot more of tools and practice with those tools, but that's in short, briefly.
Alan, hay una preguntita en el chat, ¿te gustaría
Alan,
verla o te la
there's
leo?
a question in the chat. Would you like to see or do you want me to read it?
Dice,
Okay, yes, it
María del Pilar
says,
dice, ¿cómo buscar una
Maria del Pilar
solución
says, how
sin
can we
saber
seek
qué
for a
se
solution
necesita
without
solucionar?
knowing what we need to fix? Okay, I love the question because that's the point. We don't know what to fix. And then we don't know, we slow down, and the two hearts is like, how am I and what do I want? How are you and what do you want? And when I say, how am I, if I double click it, it's like, what do I feel and what do I need? What are my feelings and what are my needs? So we slow down, we connect, and that helps to clarify and see what is it that we need to clarify. Thank you for the question. I love it.
Thank you for the question. I love it.
When I
When I
was
was
18,
18,
I was in a course where one of the
one,
instructors said, there's no dumb questions. The only dumb question is the one that we don't do. All the questions are of value. Or if someone was stuck, welcome all the questions.
Okay, so we're going to go deeper a little bit more. There's a green arrow in between the two hearts. When we slow down the speed and we create the connection, we're going to double click on the arrow and go deeper into what's going on. This is what it is. This is mediation, conflict mediation, conflict resolution based on NVC, nonviolent communication. This is the simple version. A person expresses honestly, then person B says what they understood. The first person confirms whether they were understood, and then person B expresses honestly what they have to say, and then person A reflects back what they have understood. Person B confirms whether they were understood. And this helps me to remind me that there's an A, B, A, B, A, B. We take turns. It's easy to take turns. We have learned that in kindergarten, probably. But when emotions are very strong and are going, and I want to be heard right now, and the person wants to be heard at the same time, it's really difficult to take turns. And that's why we practice nonviolent communication in order to be able to slow down. Because in essence, what's happening, and let me look for my other graph that I had. It's the role of feelings in conflicts. This is it. This does not come from Marshall Rosenberg, but is consistent with
Alan,
his
están
teachings.
preguntando si hay una versión en inglés de esto que estás mostrando en la pantalla. Entonces, nada más porque a lo mejor en este momento puede ser útil.
Sí, claro que sí.
Is there an English version of what you're showing on the screen? Yes, I do have it, and I'm going to try to show it now as well. The English version of the visual aid.
tal vez ir alternando.
Sí, 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 sí. Nada más que no la tenía ya lista,
I didn't have it
pero ya ahorita
ready at hand,
aquí
but
la tengo.
I'm going to bring it onto the screen.
Me encanta cuando la tecnología funciona y
I
a
love it
veces
when
no quiere.
technology works and sometimes it doesn't.
And Alan, when you put the English version up, I can take a screenshot and put it in the chat for those needing English, and then you can continue on the screen in Spanish if that's preferred. That's helpful.
Thank you. Huh. I'm not finding it. No, I have it.
Y hay una idea de ponerlas ambas en la pantalla, una junto a la otra, pero bueno, no
Oh,
quiero
si eso,
pedir estrés.
mejor si eso es posible.
Would be even better to have them side by side on the screen if it's possible.
Un
We'll see.
segundo.
Just
Sí la
one
tengo,
more
pero
second,
no
please.
sale.
So
I
while
do
we're
have it,
waiting,
but it's not coming.
as Alan's doing that, I invite us all to take maybe those 3 breaths that he invited us to in the beginning, just maybe taking 3 collective breaths together, connecting with ourselves in the present moment. Connecting with how we're feeling in the moment.
Qué bueno que la pidieron en inglés.
Está levantando la mano Lian.
Un segundito. 1 second, Leanne.
Here we go.
Ok.
Oh, perfect. I don't need a screenshot. There you go.
Formateado diferente.
So
Pero aquí
it's
está.
formatted differently, but here it is. Then both versions.
Entonces, del lado izquierdo, la que vimos en español. Del lado derecho, la versión en inglés. Y ahora voy a hacer lo mismo con la siguiente gráfica.
I'm going to do the same thing with the next image, with the next graph.
Ok, vamos a oír la pregunta de Leanne.
And let's hear Leanne's question now, please.
Sí, cuando una persona no entiende
When
sus
a person doesn't understand
necesidades,
their
necesidades,
needs,
Sus
sí,
necesidades.
¿qué
when
hace?
they don't understand their own needs,
¿Qué hacemos?
Sí,
what do we do?
Me
What do we
encanta tu
do?
pregunta.
I love your question.
Mucho.
Really like
Hacemos
it.
un ejercicio que es
We
otro
do an
taller.
exercise,
No
which
estaba
is
pensando hacerlo
the
hoy, pero
subject of
vamos a
another
entrar en
workshop,
eso.
but let's just talk
Hacemos un
about it
ejercicio
briefly. We do an
llamado
exercise
pelar
called
las capas de la cebolla.
peeling the onion
Y hay dos
layers.
preguntas. Bueno, es la misma
There
pregunta,
are
pero son dos
two
versiones diferentes.
versions of the same question that we
pregunta es,
ask, and the question
Si
is,
tuvieras eso,
if you had
entonces, ¿qué
that
tendrías?
thing, what would you
Si
have
tuvieras
then?
eso,
If you had
entonces,
that,
¿qué
then
te daría?
what would it give
If you
you?
had that, then what would you have? If you had that, then what would that give you? Por ejemplo,
For
viene
example,
Heather aquí de visita.
Heather comes to
Y le
visit
digo,
with me,
Heather,
and I say to
necesito la
her,
ventana abierta.
Heather, I need the window to
Y
be
Heather
open.
conoce comunicación no
And
violenta y ella
Heather
sabe que la
knows
ventana
NVC,
no
and
es
she knows
necesidad
that the
universal humana,
need by
sino lo que
itself is not a
llamamos una
universal
estrategia.
human need, it's a strategy,
Las
what we call a
estrategias son
strategy.
importantes porque son
Strategies are
la forma
important
en
because
la
they
que
are the concrete
satisfacemos
way in
necesidades.
which we satisfy or meet
Pero en sí
needs.
la
But
ventana abierta no es
the
una necesidad
window in
humana.
and of
Entonces
itself
Heather
is
está
not a
dispuesta a
human
abrir la
need, it's a
ventana,
strategy, and Heather
pero
is
también
willing
tiene
to
mucha
open the
curiosidad.
window, but
Entonces me
she's
empieza a hacer estas
curious
preguntas.
and asks me,
Bueno, Alan, o Rafa,
well,
que es mi apodo también, me
Rafa,
dice, Alan,
my nickname,
si tuvieras la ventana abierta,
if you
entonces
had
eso
the
qué te
window
daría.
open, what would that give you?
Y
And I say, well, I feel that the room is stuffy right now, and it would give me fresh air flow if we open the window. She's curious, and if you had that, what would that give you? Well, I would feel more comfortable then. And she's still curious and asks, and if you were comfortable, what would you have? What would that give you, this comfort? If I felt more comfortable, actually, Heather, I'm teaching this workshop on Zoom, and if I felt more comfortable, then I would know that I would be able to be more present and at the service of participants. And Heather says, and if you were more in the service of participants, then what would that give you? Well, that would give me confidence that I'm walking my purpose in life. And so we went in 4 steps from the strategy of window open to fulfilling my purpose in life. And so if you don't know what the need is behind what you want or the other person wants, you can ask these questions. If you had this, what would that give you? Or what would you have if you had that? And that's how you can go deeper into the underlying and more meaningful needs. For me, this is my personal viewpoint. The question, what do you want, is a sacred question. And my insight here is,
No sé si hay traducción directa al español de la palabra insight, pero creo que ya se usa también
En el
cuando
interior.
claridad interior o percepción interior, sí, como que algo que sí, como una claridad de algo se aclara.
something becomes clear when interiorly when there's an insight. And so my insight here that I got in the last 2 decades, one of the most important insights for me in the last 20 years is that I don't choose my truth. I don't choose it. I look inside and I am honest about what I find there. So what do you want is a sacred question. Nevertheless, we don't just believe what I want, because I can many voices say, oh, I shouldn't want that, I don't deserve that, or be realistic. That's never going to happen, right? And so we convince ourselves that it's not possible to get what we want, or that we shouldn't want it, that we shouldn't expect it. And I look inside, I'm honest with what I find there. If there's guilt or shame saying that you shouldn't, then that's part of my inner work. Also, to clarify what is it that I want, but also then the deeper needs that underlie what I want, because maybe I want a Ferrari, right? And if I had a Ferrari, what would that give me? All the people would want to be my friends, right? If I had a Ferrari, of course. And if everybody wanted to be your friend, then what would you have? I would have acceptance and respect from people. And if you had those, what would you have then? Oh, I would have self-acceptance then. Huh. So there's cheaper ways to find self-acceptance than getting a Ferrari, probably, right? So, okay, we can thank you for those questions. I love them.
Estoy buscando aquí. Gracias por la paciencia.
Thank you for your patience.
Aquí está. Son casi idénticas estas. ¡Pum! El papel de los sentimientos en los
The
conflictos.
role of feelings in conflict. There's 2 lines. One is blue,
Hablando sobre conceptos o
which
intercambio básico de
relates to
información.
concepts
La
and
línea roja
basic
es una línea
information
de
exchange,
energía
and
emocional.
the red line
Cuando hay un
is
conflicto,
emotional
esa línea
energy.
emocional es muy
When
turbulenta,
there's conflict,
como
this
que
line is
bloquea
turbulent and it blocks,
que yo
kind of,
pueda pensar con
that I
claridad
be able
o
to
que la
think
otra
clearly,
persona
or
pueda escuchar mi mensaje
for
sencillo,
the other person to be able to
porque hay
listen
demasiada
to
turbulencia
my
emocional.
simple message, because there's a lot of emotional
Entonces, algo que
turbulence
pasa
and this
con
red
esa
line,
doble
something that
flecha
happens
verde cuando
with
nos
this
estamos conectando
double green
es la
arrow when we're
comunicación en la que
connecting
llamamos
is what we call in
honestidad y empatía,
NVC
¿verdad? La parte de
honesty and
habla,
empathy, like a
de
dance,
expresarme
speaking,
honestamente o
expressing honestly
sinceramente,
or
y
sincerely,
la escucha
and
que no es solo escuchar para
listening,
responder, es
which is not
escuchar para
listening in
entender.
order to reply, but it's
Le
listening
llamamos
to
escucha empática,
understand.
porque la
We
empatía
call
es esa
that
comprensión mutua de,
empathic
ay, te
listening
entiendo.
because
¿Ya
it's
ves?
mutual
Y
understanding
cuando tenemos diálogos de
that we're
honestidad y
wanting.
empatía,
When we have
esa
dialogues
línea
involving honesty and
emocional se va
empathy, this
calmando.
emotional
Y
line
que se
starts
calma
to
esa
calm
línea de las
down.
emociones,
And
entonces
when
ya
it
podemos
calms
tener
down,
un
then
diálogo.
we can have a
Yo tuve un
dialogue.
caso
I
de
had a
una pareja
case once of a couple,
que tenían 5 hijos y
had 5
una de estas
children,
personas tenía en
and
su
one
contra
of
una
them
orden de protección judicial
had a restrained judicial order against
y
them
no podía
from
ver
the
a
other
sus hijos
person
con
and couldn't
excepción de
see
una hora a la semana
their
y era una visita
children
supervisada.
except for 1 hour a
Y
week in a
tenían
supervised visit.
abogados y
And they
estaban
had
en
lawyers on
los
both
tribunales, en las
sides, and they
cortes, en una
were
guerra,
at court in
y
this
llegaban los
war,
suegros de
right?
cada lado
And the
para
parents-in-law
declarar
of each
qué
side
terrible
came
persona
to
era la otra
testify
persona y estaban en
and
esta guerra
and w-
y
bear witness how
los
terrible
únicos
the
que
other
se
person
beneficiaban
was. And the
no
only
eran las cuentas
people
de
who
banco de
were
los abogados.
benefiting were the bank accounts of the
Y
lawyers on both
los
sides, right?
niños,
And the
las
children
peores víctimas en la situación. Y entonces,
were
en medio
the
de este
worst victims
proceso,
in this
empezaron a
situation.
trabajar
And in the
conmigo.
middle of this process, they started to work with me.
Y entonces hice,
And
primero les dije, les expresé
first,
lo
I
peligroso que es tener un pie en un caballo y un pie
said
en otro caballo.
how dangerous it is
Y
to have one
entonces
foot in
les
one
pedí que
horse and
pausaran
another
la
foot
guerra
in
si
another
querían
horse.
trabajar
So I
conmigo.
asked them
La
to
pausaron.
stop the war
Y
if they wanted to
entonces,
work with
una
me. And so they
semana
paused their war. And
hice
1
un día un
week
juego de
into
roles con ella
the
de 3
process,
horas
I
en relación
role
a
play
él.
for 3 hours with
Luego un
her
juego de
1 day
roles
in
con él
relation to
en
him.
relación a
And
ella.
then I did three
Yo
hours of
jugaba el
role
papel
play
de
with
ella, luego
him
jugaba el papel
in
de él y
relation
él y
to
él y él y
her, and
así.
I played the
Y
role of
después,
each for
una
the other
sesión todos
person.
juntos los
And
tres
then we
por
finally
una
had
semana.
one
3 horas,
session,
3
the
horas,
three
3
of us
horas.
together.
Y luego la
So
siguiente
nine
semana lo
hours total,
mismo.
3 sessions in
Roleplay con
1
ella,
week.
luego
And the
roleplay con
next
él,
week we
uno a
did the
uno.
same.
Y
Role play
después ya
with
los
her,
3
role
juntos.
play with
Y
him,
luego
then the
la
three of
tercera
us
semana otra
together.
vez.
We
Lo
repeated this
mismo.
process
9
one
horas.
third
3,
for a
3 y
third
3.
week,
Y
9
al final de 3
hours,
semanas,
3 sessions. And after three
despidieron a los
weeks,
abogados y
they
pidieron a la corte que
fired the
soltara la
lawyers
orden
and they asked the court
de no contacto
to
y se volvieron a mudar
terminate
juntos.
the
Se
restraint
volvieron a vivir
order, and they
juntos otra vez con
moved
los hijos.
back
Esto no
in and
solucionó
they
todos
lived
los
together with
problemas.
their children. Now, of course,
Simplemente
this did not
redujo la
solve
crisis,
all the problems, but it
bajamos el fuego a
it
los
calmed the
intentos
crisis.
y
We
ya pudieron de ahí empezar a
slowed down the
manejar
heat to the
cuáles eran los
pan,
asuntos más
and they
profundos.
were able to start working on the
Ahora,
deeper
cuando
issues
estamos
they
hablando
needed to
sobre
work on in
hablar,
this new state.
les voy a dar un
And
ejemplo
so
breve
when we
de
talk
cómo la
about the
manifestación
ABAB
se reproduce,
dynamic, and I'd like
como a
to
la
give
hora
a
más que
brief
definimos más tarde.
example, and then we can have some discussion.
Esta
And
es
we
una
will finish
mediación,
probably 15 minutes after
un
the
ejemplo de una
hour.
mediación que yo
Okay,
hice
please,
con
whomever can
mis
stay.
hijas
And this is a
cuando una
mediation that I did
tenía
with my daughters when one of
han
them
sido
was
5 años y 8 años.
8, the other one
Entonces,
was 5,
la mayor
the older one
agarró o tomó una muñeca que estaba en el suelo y
took
empezó a
a
jugar con la
doll
muñeca.
from the floor and
Y
started to
después la
play with it.
chiquita sale
And the
del
younger
baño
one came out of the bathroom and
y le quiere quitar la muñeca. Y dice,
wanted
no,
to
yo estaba
take the
jugando
doll
con la muñeca.
away.
Y
And
yo,
I said,
no,
no,
estaba
I
en el
was
suelo.
playing with the
Y estaban
doll.
peleándose.
And the
Entonces,
older one
solo
says,
un par de
no, it was
veces
on the
en
floor.
su
So just a
niñez me tuvo
couple
que decir, a ver,
times in
vamos a
their
hablar de esto.
childhood, I had to
Vamos
call
a hablar de
them
esto.
and ask
Y
them to
entonces,
talk about something together in this way.
una de un lado y la otra del
One
otro lado,
on one side and the other on
representadas
the
por
other
estos puppets.
side,
Entonces,
represented by these
a
puppets
ver,
right now,
Ari,
okay?
¿qué
So
quieres que
Ari,
entienda Satya?
what do you
Es que
want
yo estaba
Satya to
jugando con la
understand?
muñeca y
I
ella
was
llega
playing with the
y me la
doll
empieza a
and she
quitar.
comes and
Y a
takes
ver,
it and wants to
entonces,
take it from me.
pausa.
Pause, okay, pause.
¿Qué es lo que tú escuchas?
What do you
Es que yo
hear
estaba jugando
there?
con... A ver, espérame.
I was playing with
Dile a
the
tu hermana
doll.
qué es lo que
No,
tú escuchaste
tell
que me
your
está diciendo.
sister,
No
what did you
sé.
hear
No
her
puedo decir
say? I
otra
don't
cosa.
know. Can you please say it again? The doll was on the floor and I was playing with it and he wanted to snatch it from me. Can you please say what you understood her say? She said she was playing with the doll, but the doll. No, wait a second. So she was playing with the doll and I wanted to take it from her. That's what she said. Is this how you want to be understood? Yes. Now, what would you like your sister to understand? Well, I was playing with the doll first and I had to go to the bathroom, so I left it on the floor while I went to the toilet. Can you please tell your sister what you understood? She was playing with the doll, but put it on the floor while she went to use the restroom. Is that how you want to be understood by your sister? Yes. And so this is mutual understanding, one with the other. And when I failed, they were finally understanding each other. I said, well, girls, what solution can you think of? And they themselves said they imagined a solution and we were able to move on. But this is a process, A, B, A, B, A, B. So mediation using NVC. And I'm going to ask Nina now to please create breakout rooms of 3 participants. And we will invite you to go there. We have like 8 minutes, the same time that we had before. We don't have so much time. And please take turns sharing what's the most useful thing that you're taking away from the initial story or the graphs that I showed or the examples that I shared, or you can ask each other a question and you want to clarify something. So it's sharing what you have gotten thus far from this session. We come back in 8 minutes and we come together to harvest.
Solo un momentito porque hay gente que cambió
Just
ahora.
one question because some people changed something.
And just a friendly reminder to those that are recording to please pause your recording while in breakout rooms. Y por favor,
No, go ahead.
Please.
The IIT for people that don't have the resources to attend and would like to attend if you want to donate and contribute to our fundraising campaign. So, is there any question or comment about what was most useful to you, what you liked most? Please open your mic.
Bueno, yo quisiera comentar y me he apuntado con letras grandes aquí en una hoja.
To share something I wrote down with large letters. Connection before solution. I had heard it before, but now it landed with a lot of more clarity because I see it in my relationship with my partner. It's not the way we would like it, this relationship. We go too fast, probably. We try to find a solution. And I now realize how important connection is. I need an intentional community. We have it, and sometimes really good people in Catalonia come, and there are conflicts among good people because when there is connection, you lose fear and your heart opens and the solutions are produced spontaneously almost. But otherwise, there is defensiveness. You are trying to fight for what you believe is right. Thank you, Antonio. And I share something else. Connection before solution, connection before correcting someone else. So connection before correction, and also connection before education, before educating somebody. So CNVC needs to be adapted to the context. When I do trainings for organizations or enterprises, we have to adapt it to that environment. NVC with children or boys and girls needs to be adapted to that particular context. And also there's some adaptations needed when there's a couple relationship One of the most important things is vulnerability, being able to say vulnerably, not where were you all day, but to be able to say, I was afraid, kind of, and I was missing you. To open up vulnerably in your own self-expression is important, and for the other person to be able to receive this vulnerability. Is there any other comment or question that anybody might want to share?
Buenas tardes. Gracias por el espacio.
Good
Carolina,
afternoon. Thank you for this space. Carolina and then Jules.
Adelante, Carolina.
Agradezco el espacio porque aunque
I am
me
grateful for this
confundí, entré
space.
muy antes y después entré después esperando. Llegué al momento de escuchar
I
la
arrived when you
estos
said
procesos de resolución de conflictos que uno a veces lo
that
recibe
there's a
desde
process
la
for
construcción
conflict
de paz
resolution,
como de manera muy externa, como poner
and
el
when
énfasis en
we
lo externo, ¿no?
we sometimes place the
Y
emphasis
aquí
externally when we're
ese
trying to
mismo
build
proceso
peace.
o esa misma
And to see
metodología
here
de
that the same
resolución de conflictos,
methodology of
pero
conflict
desde la
resolution
conexión cambia la vida, ¿no? Y
from a place of
justamente
connection
le comentaba al
changes
grupo
life.
que yo
I
estaba
was
haciendo
telling
una maestría en
the
construcción de paz y
group
decía,
that
falta algo,
I
me
was
falta algo,
studying a master's in
porque
past
insistíamos mucho como
peace
que la
building,
paz se
and I
construye,
felt
como
something
que
is
todo está
missing, something is
afuera,
missing,
y yo decía,
because it
pero
seems
es
as if you
que
construct peace outside and
agradezco
everything is
conmigo en
outside,
de
but
descubrir esa paz que está dentro,
I
¿no?
wanted
O
to discover
conectarse
the
con esa
peace
paz
that
que está
is
dentro.
inside and to be able to connect with the inner peace and go from there. Yes, there is a relationship between internal and external, and they go together. How to bring your own heart towards this external peace building is hard to build peace when you feel that you are right and you want to impose your own perspective on other people. Please, Jules. I thank you a lot for this hour. It's been really interesting. It's the first time that I listen to NVC teachings in another language that's not Italian. So with this Spanish takes me to another culture, another perception. And I was wondering, thinking about the intensive training, I have a question. Is there a space to reduce the price? Can we volunteer? Is there some service that we can lend in order to reduce the cost of participating? I'd like to know that.
Si puedes aplicar o llenar una solicitud
Yes,
para
you can
apoyo
apply.
económico.
You can for
Y hasta donde yo sé,
economic financial
no hay
aid.
voluntarios,
I
porque ya tenemos
as far as I
apoyo
know, there's no
pero sí
role as a
sí hay
volunteer
una
because we
forma
have
de
all the
pedir
support we need,
ayuda
but there
económica.
is
Y
a
también por eso
way
estamos haciendo
to
esta serie de
request
talleres
financial aid, and
para
that's also
personas
why we are
para
sharing these
fondos de ayuda
workshops in
económica.
order to raise funds to be able to offer financial aid.
Nina
Tal
tiene
vez
más
puedo
información.
añadir que si tú haces la
I can
preregistración,
add that if you
tras el enlace que
pre-register
puse, luego estamos en
on
contacto y te
the
puedo
link
guiar
that I
cómo
shared,
llenar el
we can be
formulario
in touch and I can guide you on how to fill out the application for scholarships and financial aid.
Gracias, Jules. No, y no es solo,
Thank you,
el
Jules.
recibir CNV en otro idioma. También
It's not
una cosa que a mí
only
me ayudó
receiving
mucho
NVC in another language, but
mi
something
crecimiento
that
en
helped
comunicación no
me in my
violenta
own
es
growth in this
aprender de
practice
muchas
was to
diferentes
learn from many different
entrenadoras o formadoras,
trainers,
formadores, aprender de
many
muchas
different
diferentes personas. A
people.
mí me ha enriquecido mucho,
Really
porque
has
cada quien le
enriched
da su
me because
propio
every person
sabor,
has
su
their
propio
own
ángulo.
different twist or angle or flavor to it.
Bueno, gracias.
Thank you. Well,
Creo que estamos por cerrar. Le paso la
I think
palabra
we are about
a
to
Heather, a
close,
Nina.
and so I turn it over
Si hay
to
algo
Heather
que-
and Nina.
Muchas
I just
gracias.
want to thank also just real quick, Nina, is it fine? Just to thank the interpreters for your support
I
and
want to
yeah. In creating this multicultural more ease in a multicultural space for supporting us with the language interpretation. That's a huge gift, and I just want everyone to, give a shout out for the interpreters. Yay, thank you. and to thank Alan for the session. And I'll turn it over to Nina. But before we close, I would also want to invite everyone to open their mics and say goodbye or thank you or whatever in the language of your choice, because I really enjoy hearing everyone's voices in the space as well. It's a gift to me. Over to you, Nina.
Gracias, Heather. Muchas gracias a todos, todas por venir.
Thank you, everyone, for being here today. Thank you to everyone who helped. If you have any further questions regarding the IIT, you can write to us. There's a link on the chat where you can find all the information necessary, and there's the IIT email, and there is a link to the fundraiser link, so we can support candidates to certification and certified trainers, so we can have more certified trainers in Latin America. And so we want to raise as many funds that we have enough to support everyone who needs it, right? So if you need any help, please write to us. Together it's easier to find solutions, and the door is open to see what we can do together. Thank you very much.
And now, if you'd like to open your mics and
Podemos abrir los micrófonos para despedirnos, si quieren.
Can we open our mics in order to say hello, goodbye?
Gracias a todos.
Gracias.
Thank you very much.
Que les vaya muy bien.
Thank you for being here.
Hasta luego.
Gracias a todos.
That's great. Thank you.
Chao.
Thank you, Richard. Chao.
Chao, chao.
Gracias, Fausto. Jenny,
Gracias, Antonio.
gracias.
Gracias, Ana.